Hello, I'm Dave. Today I will tell you a story of how the world ends. There once were two other world beings, Crowley, a demon, and Aziraphale, an angel. I'm Crowley. I'm Aziraphale. Watching over people from the top of the world and discussing the beginning of humanity. Adam and Eve were kicked out from the Garden of Eden to survive out in the world alone by God because they ate a forbidden fruit. Wow! I like this view of them fighting. Pity both of them. Didn't you have a flaming sword, Aziraphale? Yes, I gave it to them. You what? She's pregnant, what do you want me to do? Flash forward to 1,000 years later, 11 years before the Armageddon. It was the start for both Crowley and Aziraphale. Hospitals are filled with many emotions. There are people crying over their gratefulness to God and people grieving over the death of loved ones. I wish I had more time with Lisa. But for Crowley, it was different. It was especially nerve-wracking. Because whilst amongst all these people, he had to deliver a baby without the parents' knowledge. That night it was raining cats and dogs. He was given the task by the other demons, the Dukes of Hell, Hastur and Ligier, to deliver the Antichrist, an infant at the time, to an American diplomat's wife.
The Antichrist baby has to be delivered or you will face the consequences.
Yeah, the explanation was clear as mud. Ciao. He didn't really like the plan as he did not want the apocalypse to happen. However, he had to do it, at least for his own sake. Then there he was entering one of the British hospitals in a small rural area called Castlecombe while coolly carrying a basket with a baby in it on his left hand. Meanwhile, a woman went into labor as she reached the hospital. The sisters were briefed on what to do. The woman was called Mary and she was an American diplomat's wife. Surprisingly, there was another couple who entered the hospital that same night. Bella and her husband. After both ladies delivered their babies, the babies were sent to the nursery area for cleaning. Then, when these two babies were as calm as mill pond, they were taken to their respective bed. Out of the blue, the sisters heard a loud thud from outside the hospital.
What was that? I don't know. Maybe we should check it out.
They ran outside the entrance of the hospital only to see that it was as quiet as the night. Little did they know that it was one of Crowley's tricks to get them distracted. Meanwhile, Crowley entered the baby room as quiet as the dead, tiptoeing while carrying the baby in his arms. He stopped at the infant's bed reading off the name of the baby's mother, Mary. So you are the American diplomat's child, aren't you? As he was about to place his hands around Mary's baby to replace with the Antichrist baby, a squeaking sound appeared next to him. He turns his head to the sound, looking at a different baby. Suddenly, an idea popped on his mind. Why don't we switch the Antichrist baby with this random baby? Anyhow, no one will know if I switch this baby with another baby, right? And I don't like the idea of Armageddon happening, so why not? Then, he heard footsteps approaching the room. He quickly changed the Antichrist baby with Bella's baby and disappeared into thin air to be transported to the front seat of his car. Mary's child was named as Paul while Bella's baby, who was the Antichrist, was named Adam. Little did he know what he did was going to end in a disaster later. How did it go? Crowley could not tell his best friend about what he did. Crowley knew Aziraphale would never break the rules made by God. Hello, are you there? Yes. Yes. All went perfectly as planned. Hail the Lord. Do you want to celebrate with me? Yes, we should. Where do you want to meet? St. James, now. All right. See you. Few moments later. Cheers! While drinking, Aziraphale had a thought in his mind and suddenly asked Crowley, "Hey, why don't we follow the Antichrist, child?" "What? Why? Don't you have other heavenly work to do? I mean, think about it. We shall watch over the Antichrist child like any other child. This is to prepare him for the Armageddon. He shall not be good nor bad, right? No, that's not going to happen. Stop this lunatic nonsense. Oh, come on. We have parallel thinking, am I right? Crowley gave a funny expression to his reaction, but was nervous about Aziraphale finding out the truth, and he doesn't want to get caught. Fine. Whatever you want. That's my mate. 5 years have passed since then. Aziraphale and Crowley discussed how they are going to follow the child while the parents are around. After countless arguments, they finally concluded they would disguise themselves as household staff at the diplomat's home. I'm Francis now.
I'm Michelle now.
Aziraphale impersonated as a gardener, named Francis, and Crowley was the boy's nanny, Michelle. As Paul grew up, Crowley and Aziraphale taught two different things to him. Aziraphale taught him good things, such as taking care of plants and animals around him. On the other hand, Crowley taught him to do bad things. Is it true that we can't hurt anything around us?
Says who, dear?
Mr. Francis told me so.
Oh, don't listen to him. He is just getting old, that's all. Now go to sleep.
Paul has grown up to be a bratty 11-year-old kid. Crowley gets a notice from hell that they're about to send Hellhound to the Antichrist's 11th birthday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh no! What should I do about it? Paul's birthday is today, and it's already 1 o'clock. What's wrong? Hell sent me a notice about sending the Hellhound to Paul. Well, that's a good thing. Don't you feel happy? I have something to confess. Yes, what is it? I changed the Antichrist baby with someone else's baby. You did what? I am sorry, I had no choice. I was going to deliver the baby to the right parents, but I suddenly thought to change with another baby. Why did you do that? Have you lost your mind? Well, you know, I didn't like God's plan. You are unbelievable. You have to take responsibility for this act of yours. I'm sorry! Can you please tell me what we should do now? Meanwhile, the real Antichrist, Adam, was in the woods playing with his friends somewhere in rural England. The scheduled Hellhound showed up, just in time for his 11th birthday, and was named Dog. Adam's new pet reverted to a small dog, and the two hit it off immediately. Who's a good boy? Backtracked to the 17th century, there lived a witch called Agnes. She was highly gifted and can see into the future. She wrote a book of prophecies that had details of everything that is going to happen in the future. A witch hunter discovered that she was a witch and decided to burn her at stake. In the present, that book, which had been passed down to her multiple great-granddaughter Anathema, an American who's grown up amid wealth and privilege thanks to her ancestors' advice. Anathema's mother sent her to Tidfield, England to do what she can to prevent Armageddon from happening. She moved to Adam's neighborhood and coincidentally moved in just beside Adam's house. As she unpacked all her stuff including the book of prophecies, she heard kids playing in the backyard of their houses.
Hello kids. I just moved into this house. I am Anathema.
I am Pepper.
I am Brian. I am Wensleydale. And I am Adam. I live next to you. They talked for a while about their lives and their neighborhood. Soon after, Anathema went back inside her house and the kids started to play again. Later that evening, Aziraphale calls Crowley to discuss the Antichrist kid at the library Aziraphale owns. Please tell me if you find anything about the kid. Well, actually I haven't. We got to first discuss the odds of him being alive or not. Hail Satan. What are we going to do about that? Duke of Hellhaster and Duke of Helliger were asking about the Hellhound, and I told them everything is going perfectly, which is clearly a lie. We at least know his age and where he was born, right? Why don't we start from there? The hospital near Castlecombe. No pal. I tried that. The hospital has changed to a corporate retreat for co-workers.
Excuse me, can you show me some books about Tidfield's history? I've been trying to find it in the books section, but I was unable to.
Aziraphale shows the way to this lady and gives her the books she wanted. Why do you want to know the history of this town?
No particular reason, just for some research I'm doing.
Aziraphale went back to Crowley to talk about the kid again. He sat down next to him and they kept talking the whole evening. They seemed like they couldn't find any solutions to it and were dull as dishwater. Crowley went home to get some rest. Aziraphale, as usual, started to clean up his place, because he was always a tidy man. He continued to clean up and suddenly he found a green book on a table. He picked it up and figured that the lady that just came in had left this book. The book was titled, Book of Prophecies. Aziraphale sat down, opened the book and started to read it. As he reads all the content in the book, he realized that this book predicted the future. He read the book throughout the night and one of the prophecies caught his attention. Cryptically, it was a phone number. He dialed it and it rang to Adam's house. He then hung up surprised. Should I tell Crowley or not? This is just such dangerous information. Maybe it is better dealt alone. Meanwhile, Adam the Antichrist's pet hellhound that was meant to protect him during Armageddon had started lazing around and neglecting its training. The only time Dog was active was to run towards Anathema's house. The house itself was spellbound to protect Anathema from evil beings, so every time Dog would enter, a little bit of their evil spirit was cleansed. Additionally, every time Adam went to bring the hellhound back, Anathema would go on about the book she lost. Wow! Such cool stories you have told me. Although believing in a book of prophecies would seem absurd to anyone else, Adam found the stories to be fascinating and would come around often to hear about the contents that Anathema could remember. While Anathema and Adam were immersed in their usual discussion of God's plan, Aziraphale sat on the branch of a large oak tree between Anathema and Adam's house, eavesdropping with his divine sense of hearing. Hey! This dark brown tree I sat on has lost its color. The refreshingly bright green leaves that dangled over him started to rot and fall to the ground. Different with when Aziraphale was climbing the tree, it was clearly recently mown and painted with morning dew. Now it's long and growing wild weeds. Meet me at my bookstore, Crowley. I have something urgent to discuss. All right. I'll be there in a hurry. It's here already, the war between heaven and hell, the Armageddon is happening. Let's run away. Aziraphale, even if you have never mentioned it, I know you don't want to face this war. Both Crowley and Aziraphale were fond of the earth. They spent the better part of their lives here. Although Aziraphale would never betray God's plan, it was all too clear to Crowley how uncomfortable Aziraphale was whenever they talked about it. Therefore, Crowley assumed it would be better to at least not have to witness what they love and... No, we can stop the Armageddon. I'm tired of having to always go with everything. I can contact Metatron and convince him to stop this. However, they both knew that speaking to him was useless. Metatron was as verbally responsive as God. Since Aziraphale refused to run away, Crowley had to leave by himself, which was harder than he realized. Because as soon as he got home to grab his essentials, other demons lay in waiting for him. How they could have possibly known that Crowley was about to escape was not something that he could figure out.
Good. You came on spot. Now you will face the consequences.
What? Look, it's a bird.
Huh. Where? Hey, he's gone.
All he needed was a split of a second to teleport elsewhere. Despite the preposterous idea, the other demons somehow managed to get tricked by it and Crowley vanished by the time they turned back. What? The bookstore is on fire. Crowley, who was ignorant to the fact that it was Aziraphale himself who set the shop on fire as his first ever sign of rebellion against God's plan, was in pursuit of locating Aziraphale. Where are you? Somebody hurt my friend. As for Aziraphale, he was forcibly summoned to heaven by Gabriel. The gatekeeper of heaven greeted him with the feeling that Aziraphale's face looked very familiar when he checked the logbook. You disrupted God's plan for burning that bookstore of yours. Aziraphale wanted to return back to Earth before Gabriel showed up. He used a portal between heaven and Earth while the gatekeeper was droning on and on about Aziraphale's defiance. As Aziraphale made his escape, the four horsemen of the apocalypse made their presence known on Earth. Death, war, famine and pollution, they were created by God solely to ensure that the Armageddon happens as it was supposed to. Once they have all arrived, they headed towards a large field, a place in the middle of seemingly nowhere. While the four horsemen were on their way, they didn't realize that they were not only group heading towards the same destination. Crowley managed to find them while searching for Aziraphale. Since the horsemen weren't being very discreet, word of four strange figures heading to a field spread around the streets and made their way to Crowley. Meanwhile, Aziraphale had returned back to Earth. He skimmed through the Book of Prophecies to find the field before making his way there. Anathema, having also read the book, happened to remember the location of where the Armageddon was meant to begin and decided that she would like to watch as it unfolds. Unknown to her, Adam and his friends were right on her tail with the intent of stopping the war and protecting Earth. As Crowley arrived at the field in his Bentley, he was finally able to reunite with Aziraphale. "Let's kill the Antichrist. It's the only way to stop the war. It will be one life for several billion. Have you lost your mind in the fire? We can find ways to stop this outside of murder. The child is here now, let's at least wait to see what he does first." Meanwhile, Adam and his friends were arguing against the horsemen and trying to hinder God's plan. By claiming that they were eradicating corruption and making the world with a better place by stopping the war. Hey, no Armageddon can happen without the kids' consent. Baffled with realization, Death couldn't find a way to pursue the war without Adam. He left with the other horsemen. Not long after their leave, the Dukes of Hell and Gabriel arrived. Crowley and Aziraphale were supposed to be facing trial for committing treason against Hell and Heaven respectively. However, against the Dukes and Gabriel's desire, both the Council of Hell and Heaven declared Crowley and Aziraphale as not guilty, considering that it was Adam and his friends who played the key role in stopping the Armageddon. Having been cleared of punishment, Aziraphale and Crowley had no duties to serve anymore without the war. So they decided to live as humans do. Aziraphale reconstructed his bookshop, and Crowley decided to open up a flower shop. Anathema went home without having been noticed by either the horsemen nor Aziraphale and Crowley. Waiting on top of her doorstep was the book that she lost. After being inspired by Adam and his friends, she threw the book away and decided to live life as she pleased and not as the book dictates. As for the heroes of Earth, Adam and his friends, they went back to their childish ways and continued playing as if nothing had ever happened. Hey, that's the end of our story. Thanks for watching.